What is up, guys? Welcome back to Think Shank. We are coming at you right after the, who could have guessed it, unbelievable second game of the Los Angeles Clippers at the Denver Nuggets for game 2 of the first round playoff series. Clippers pull it out 105-102. Unbelievable game again. Very easily could have went back into overtime, and Christian Braun actually had a phenomenal look to send it there. And just to give you a flavor of how fucking insane, or really just how evenly matched this matchup is, flip-flopped quarter to quarter between who was on top and who wasn't. I believe there were something on the order of 18 different lead changes, and both teams were scratching and clawing in a variety of ways to gain any advantage possible, really on the fringes. And this clashing of strategies, particularly on the offensive ends of each, makes this such a wonderful and beautiful Rubik's Cube on both ends. It's like you're watching in real time. One team adjusting to another team sort of throwing different ideas out there, seeing what kind of works, and then the players themselves, of course, are the ones exemplifying those adjustments, and then their own counters come to light. I am just going to hit these top line game trends that really stuck out to me, and we're just going to roll with that. I'm going to try to keep this short. I have to go to work. First and foremost, Kawhi Leonard flipped the Thanos switch and could not miss a shot. This was one of the most singularly dominant playoff games so far of the postseason. I think it has to be the best. Finishes 39 points on damn near 80% from the floor. What that means is the man took 19 shots. You look at a lot of number one options on a lot of other teams, they're breaching 22, 23. You look at Luka, you look at Brunson. Kawhi only took 19 and missed 4 of them. Not only that, is he was delivering in the clutch, hitting every single shot except for a chuck from 3 very late. At least, clutch time last 5-6 minutes, basically took the game over. I mean, he finishes 12 points, 4 of 7 in that fourth quarter, 1 steal, 3 assists. It didn't really matter all game. I mean, out of the starting blocks, came out guns blazing. I think the storyline coming into it, he had 7 turnovers in that first game. Obviously, he is top 5-6 guy in the NBA when he's healthy, and now he looks as healthy as he's looked in the past literally 5 years, with all of the hubbub around his health, attacking Jamal Murray out of the starting blocks, and then going forth to be patient and get to his spots very methodically. It's just a great reminder game of not just the greatness, but the how, not just the what, but the how. And a lot of the how for Kawhi comes down to that methodical backing you down, super broad shoulders, really, really strong, enormous hands. So he doesn't actually get stripped that often. And once he's there, it's virtually impossible to stop him throughout the course of the game. The Nuggets were cycling through guys, starting off, of course, with Aaron Gordon, their strongest, biggest kind of matchup for him. David Edelman, the Nuggets coach, gives Peyton Watson some run, end of the first, and some later sprints as well for that particular matchup. Clearly did not matter. Oh, I meant to mention there was a point, I believe it was very, very early on in the fourth or late in the third, where up until that point, Kawhi Leonard had literally missed 1 shot in the game in the second quarter. It's making me really, really frustrated that I can't find that specific timestamp, but it was absolutely disgusting and made no sense whatsoever. Whatever, everybody's going to be freaking out about it anyway, so absolutely dominant. I could not be more impressed, and to see 2019 Kawhi Leonard is like seeing a warm childhood memory that you had long sort of forgot about or maybe a place that you revisit in your adult years and think it's not going to be as cool. I have no idea, but just an incredible, incredible outing. The script was almost the opposite for Harden. Had a very slow start. He finishes the first quarter only 1 for 5. Did have some important kind of punches out there, some transition threes, what have you. He had some very, very costly defensive breakdowns, and especially on that very last possession, Christian Braun, wide open look to send the game into overtime, essentially. That was Harden's guy, and he was late getting back and then fell all over himself and basically gave up the game-tying 3 that Christian Braun bricked. Also early was Jamal Murray, clearly got the memo as well. Looking at his post-game, he just hasn't been very happy with the starts. I mean, that's just the metaphor of his career, basically, and virtually every sense. But it worked this time. Comes out with 8 shot attempts in the first half. I personally would have prescribed closer to 10, 11, but he made 5 of them, got to the line a couple times. So he finishes the first half with 12 points. It was a strong outing, making that statement. And so here's where the higher level sort of team to team, I think, insight comes into play. So Kawhi, obviously, he is going Human Torch mode, and that is more or less the Clippers offense to start. But it was in a losing effort because Denver threw the first punch in the margin game. And particularly with these two teams, there's basically a tug of war going on between the fast break points and scoring. And so, you know, when you're getting scored on every time, it's tough to get the ball out the basket and still get on the fast break. Jokic does his best. Denver was getting shots, or Denver was getting stops when Kawhi basically wasn't the one shooting. And they end up with 12 fast break points in the first quarter. Clippers identify that. Ty Lue steps in, slaps him around a little bit, and then they get 0 of them in the second and third. I think that was partially a function of Adelman going to Watson, CB, and then Pickett, I think, to close last few minutes of the first quarter, and there was just a series of easy scores and lay-ins that they were taking advantage of. Fast forward to the second quarter, and the Clippers strike back, mostly just by clamping the shit on the defensive end like a python. And this leads to my second biggest point, which is Jeff Van Gundy manning the defensive controls of this Clippers team, again, against not only the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, great, that is going to be hard in and of itself, but the fact that he is so great at not only dominating individually, but getting his whole team involved, he is the system. They were able to really not let Jokic get comfortable throughout this game, and particularly where he likes to operate from the most, which was the paint. I think, one, you had some incredible stunts and really just defensive plays being made by particularly Chris Dunn. This guy so far has been the most entertaining and electrifying player to watch in the playoffs. He is making interceptions and deflections on Jokic passes that usually result in an untouched dunk. Like, for example, the Aaron Gordon drop-offs where Jokic will just barrel his way in front of the rim, sort of front and center, drawing the crowd and expecting that to happen, doing some wild twisty turnies and knowing exactly where Gordon or Westbrook is going to be right under the basket for an untouched dunk. Chris Dunn is stunting like he is going to double and countering that by just stunting and getting back, and he's intercepting passes that, again, nobody's even getting their hands on. And then he's also coming in from the weak side, stripping Jokic from behind when he is in his favorite place, about, 12, 10 feet away. I think that psychologically got Jokic kind of shaky. And you think about a couple of those early turnovers, ultimately they lead to 7 for Jokic. That actually might be a playoff high for him. And I just have to say, the very, very tight, just honest string defense as far as collapsing in the paint around Jokic, swiping and clawing over the opposite of his driving shoulder so that he can't see you coming. He was able to pick that apart a little bit later in the game. But with any great player, it's not about stopping them. It's about mixing everything up. So they're constantly having to feel like they need to be analyzing everything and be super, sort of alert, overthink things, etc. And that is ultimately what happened with Jokic, culminating in that 7th turnover on their second last possession, down 3, where Jokic essentially throws it on a kick out to Kawhi Leonard. Basically, he barely even really had to move. Terrible spacing there. I mean, Russ was already kind of on that wing where the kick out was coming, but Brown didn't see him and then backs out basically right in front of Russ, drawing Kawhi with them. And Kawhi was basically right in front of 2 guys, and Jokic just kind of threw it to him. Point being, I just think Jeff Van Gundy deserves a lot of credit. Obviously, you have a lot of defensive talent, but you have to be able to utilize them against a one-of-a-kind offensive system, as well as talent in Jokic. And, they just did an unbelievable job. Next, the Russell Westbrook plus-minus scale regressed to the median, I would say. He did hit 2 really big threes in, I believe, the 4th quarter. Leading up to that, he had a very, very tough turnover for Bogdanovic, led to a Derrick Jones uncontested dunk. Those are the kinds of, again, momentum plays that I do think really, really matter that time and place. And then in addition to that, but earlier in the game, took the bait on a couple really tough 2s that definitely didn't need to be happening. That is, as they say, the Westbrook experience. You can bait him into bad decisions. You also have to live with the good ones, or just the good shot making that sometimes happens. So I'm not saying this is a net negative or net positive. I just feel like this is the yin-yang, bad, good, never going to be 100% either way, or honestly close to it. He's just too good at stuff that'll never show up in the stat sheet, but then also is definitely prone to bad decisions. So anyway, it just felt like last game, Russell Westbrook was probably the most important nugget aside from Nikola Jokic. This game, definitely not the case. Michael Porter Jr. closed this time, playing the last 7.5 minutes. Throughout the game, it was really clear that his emphasis on behalf of Adelman, and I'm sure the coaching staff, looking at the matchups that they have, basically, you're 6'10", they're guarding you with Norm Powell. You need to get the fuck to the rim and bury these guys for offensive rebounds or getting fouled, and that's exactly what he did. So that shift in priorities, I thought was really great. He finishes with 15 points, 15 rebounds. That is way more active, obviously. 6 for 11 shooting, and only 4 of those 11 attempts were from 3, meaning he wasn't settling from the outside. And judging by how things were going early on, when, he's in there, the broadcasters are even mentioning that storyline within this storyline saturated matchup. It felt like the shakiness of how things went the last game permeated in his outside shooting. It just didn't look great to start. This is the lesson that guys have to learn about the postseason. That can't be a make or miss league, or at least in your psychology, it can't be. Like, if you are not hitting threes, then you're fucking useless. That is stupid, especially when you're 6'10", being guarded by 6'5", 6'6" guys. You need to get boards, get fouled, get active, all of those things. Yeah, and he did great. I mean, 15 boards, that's insane. If anything, he really set himself up, because now it's really clear what can happen when he gets the microscope put on him. Christian Braun, no rhythm / tough game, ends up breaking the game tying 3. This is a really tough Christian Braun game. I'm not gonna lie about it. I mean, 34 minutes, 5 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, -3. 2 for 7 from the floor. That potential game-tying shot was literally his only field goal attempt in the fourth quarter. Granted, he only played 4 minutes, so I'm assuming, the last 4 minutes of the quarter, which is, I don't know, interesting, I guess. But before that, in the third quarter, he only attempted 2 shots, and I think it is a microcosm of a much bigger trend here, which was in the first quarter, basically, Denver was getting out in transition, pushing the pace, and burning the Clippers alive, 12 fast break points. But once the Clippers really locked in defensively and shored up those opportunities, guys like Brown were seeing their, quote, easier buckets, or let's be real, the main ingredient of a lot of their offensive production being taken away. And that was kind of how I felt in a lot of this game here, is Jokic, Murray, MPJ, Aaron Gordon type of game. And these guys went in order of field goal attempts: Jokic 16, Jamal 17, MPJ 11, Aaron Gordon 13, Westbrook 11 in just 23 minutes. And then it drops all the way to Brown at 7. I didn't really feel him. And so maybe it's a symptom of, sure, the age thing, whatever, he's been here before, but I also have a feeling that some of the defensive spark that he gets by blocking guys up and causing them havoc is helpful for getting his offense going. Not to mention being good on defense is just going to get you out and running, which again is all he wants to do. He's not touching Kawhi. I mean, this is cybernetic, futuristic, cyberpunk 3025 type of assassinating, surgical, monstrous Dracula stuff. And so I just felt like psychologically it was probably might have gotten psyched out. The other thing too that I think is worth mentioning is in the clutch time, it wasn't just the turnovers from Jokic that were a bit surprising. I think that the missed free throws, both for Jokic as well as the Nuggets overall, was definitely a lost opportunity here. Denver only shot 63% from the free throw line. They went 14 of 22, so they missed 8 free throws and end up with only a 4-point margin on made free throws after doubling the attempts of their opponent. So the high-level takeaways for Game 3. 1, the tug-of-war over the fast break is only going to intensify. I think both teams have proven they are more than effective half-court wise at slowing the other ones down. I give the slight edge to the Clippers so far in that we saw spectacular work from James Harden in Game 1, both from scoring and facilitating. I think 11 assists to only 2 turnovers or something. And then, of course, tonight was assassin samurai Kawhi. So when you have really, really incredible isolation scorers, everybody says this about the playoffs, it's just going to be super helpful. It's going to give a slight lean as a result to Denver really wanting to capitalize in transition and get out and run. Again, the best way to do that is to get stops. And if Kawhi is eating you alive, it's going to be hard, which segues beautifully to the second biggest point, is that in the final 2-3 minutes, when again Kawhi was throwing darts on the Nuggets virtually by himself in ISO, really surprised that the Nuggets didn't double the ball out of his hands. Obviously, the Clippers do have capable shooters, but given the flow of the game and the shot distribution, Kawhi with 19 field goal attempts, Zubac 10, and then Harden 17, and then the next highest was Norm Powell with 14, Chris Dunn with 7. So, and then Norm Powell, again, still struggling, only went 5 for 14. So essentially at that point, man, you're really looking at like 3 out of 5 guys who can kind of burn you. And then Zubac is super limited down low, and it's going to be tough to get it past Denver's sort of length for those entry passes as is. So I just say that to say, when Kawhi is isolating less than 18 feet to the rim, I would not be surprised if Adelman is like, who the fuck is on Chris Dunn? You're going to get the ball out of Kawhi's hands. I think that tonight was a very great lesson in that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is number one adjustment that they go to, and it's not just in crunch time, sprinkled throughout the game. The final point I'll make is just around the strategy offensively that Denver has to have to overcome some of these lightning quick doubles and triples that they were sending at Jokic. It is obviously great when he can manipulate them and then get open looks for his team, which he was able to do a few times. It wasn't consistent enough, and it was rushing Jokic quite a bit, as well as the primacy of getting him out of kind of the paint area when he gets it on the catch. He was initiating a lot from outside of the arc, which mitigates his primary core advantage, which is you have to be close to be a real scoring threat, and then you invite the doubles and then you create the advantages. And so I'm assuming it's going to be some chess match of getting Jokic the ball closer, getting guys to react when there are doubles faster and easier for Jokic to kick it out and things like that. And then, hey, it was a 3-point game. Ultimately, this is by no means a terrible fall on your face type of performance for Denver. You just got to make free throws, and you can't turn the ball over like you did. Kind of a similar story, just written from the other perspective. Turnovers, late game execution, and they, being the Clippers, had one guy that simply couldn't be stopped. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and on to the next.